So hello everybody, my name's Nick Marshall and welcome to the Pinnacle Mindset Talk Show. This is our inaugural show and today we are discussing stigmas surrounding the LGBT community. Tonight I've got Hez hosting with me. Thank you so much for her coming along. And I'd like to introduce two guests that we've got this evening. We've got Simon Law and Nick Peterson Stocks. Thank you so much, gents, for coming along today. So LGBT, this month is particularly prevalent because this month is Pride Month, where lesbian, gay, bisexual and transgender, for those who don't know what LGBT stands for, come together to celebrate everything. There were a number of events held internationally and also within the UK, lockdown dependent, in order to try and raise awareness and educate those, particularly those that are anti and that need to know a little bit more. And hopefully we'll get onto some of the stigmas that are surrounding the LGBT community later on. And the two gentlemen are going to talk a little bit about their mental health battles in a little while. So gentlemen, welcome along. Thanks so much for coming along tonight.
I had to go so far.
Yeah,
such a distance.
Yeah, for sure. Straight up the stairs, I'm sure.
Wrestle, yeah.
So I don't know who wants to go first, but the gentlemen, do you want to just let us know a little bit about your background and just tell us about your experiences?
Age before beauty. Off you go, Simon.
Am I older than you?
Yes, you are.
I keep lying to myself. Background, oh blimey. So I guess from a being gay point of view, I have to admit, I think it's something you always know. Something that probably hits you around puberty, but being as I went to a boys' school in my for the high school, it's something that I definitely suppressed during that period of my life. That carried on or pretty much all the way through my teens, even through college, and probably wasn't something that I admitted to myself until I was 22, something like that. And then following that, I don't think I told my parents until I was, I'm going to say something like 28. Buried bad news on after a car accident. I then kind of I guess, well, I work in an environment that's in the legal profession that isn't, or certainly historically hasn't been somewhere that it's been easy to be open and gay either. So whilst I don't like using the cliche that is, as a gay person, you come out every day, you do have to come out quite a lot. And I do go to a lot of events and stuff, and people naturally kind of gravitate and ask you how your wife is and do you have children and stuff. And then it's a constant thing of, well, the wife is not quite a husband yet, but might be in the close future. But so you kind of just have to keep going through that process every so often. And, you know, it does take a strain. I think that's kind of about it, really.
So just touching on that, so obviously that's a battle you're facing every day when people are constantly having to ask you, do you find that you have to justify yourself at all, or is it, and then when you explain it, do you ever get any sort of misreactions? How do people react when you sort of explain it?
I tend to find that a lot of people that are quite surprised, and the thing that I generally get back from people is, and even when I talk to one of my good friends now who's known me for so long, she's like, you know, when I first met you, I never knew you were gay, and I never thought you were gay, and you do all these things, you know, play sport, and you know, and I do a lot of additional things on top of my job in the legal sector as well, and I just don't come across kind of that stereotypical gay person. So that's the usual thing, but then after that, it just becomes, I guess after a while, it just becomes a bit boring and a bit like, yeah, you know, I shouldn't need to tell this to you. And, yes, you might, have an interest. Generally it's people making small talk around dinner tables and stuff like that. And I'm just kind of like, I'm just not, I just don't really need to do that. I'm generally at these events because, of my work and either speaking as an expert in a subject or representing a body. And actually it's kind of like it's not to do with my personal side, and I very much do like to keep those two things separate.
Totally understand. Yeah.
So obviously there's a few questions I've got from what you've said, but we'll draw onto that a little bit later on in terms of how it's affected you sort of mentally, and I imagine you're still fighting that battle every day. So Nick, do you want to just sort of tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I tell this story quite often, so I'm quite used to it. So I didn't come out until I was 30. I was married to a woman, but when I look back, I probably think, how the hell didn't I know? I grew up in a town called Grimsby, northeast. There wasn't any role models for me to know that were like me, to understand what those feelings meant. So it was always that kind of thing of it'll go away. This is what everyone must feel, but then you get married, you have children, and those feelings just go away. But it wasn't until after I got married that I first had my first interaction with a male. So I did cheat on my wife, which is not something I'm proud of. But once I did do that, because the idea was that it would get it out of my system, it would get those feelings would go away. But actually, it just solidified that actually I am different to what I thought, and I then found myself in a situation that was not good for me mentally, physically. I was married for 5 years before we actually separated. I'm now married again, but to a wonderful guy. When I came out, it was, it's kind of like I appreciate what Simon's saying about the coming out when something really bad's happening, because my mum died about 5 years ago now of cancer, but I found out, I split up with my wife on the same weekend that we found out that my mum had come out of remission and she got breast cancer again. And it was just from that, it was very easy to go, oh, you're dying, oh, I'm gay. It was like that. It's nothing compared to that. So, and my mum was the first person I came out to, because when we knew it was terminal, we were having a conversation and she was worried about death, and we had a real deep heart to heart, and with what was going on with my mum, and my mum worried about my dad and what would happen to him, because I live in Leicester, my brother lives in Northampton, he's up in Grimsby, and it was kind of, I just had this conversation because it was such a deep heart to heart. I was like, if I don't do it now, if I don't tell her my truth, then it will never feel right, and it might cheapen the conversation that we were having that was so deep. So it was probably about 12 o'clock at night, and we were out at my mum's house, which I'd driven down to because we'd found out that she had cancer again. And I just sat there, and I initially said, I think I'm gay. And it was kind of, as soon as I said, I think I'm gay, it wasn't, I had to retract. And I was like, no, hang on. It's not that I think I'm gay. I know I'm gay. And she was so supportive of it. The family as a whole wasn't completely supportive at first. Like my immediate family was, my brother and my dad. But some of the sort of remedial family, like the Edge family, they sort of couldn't get their heads around it at first. I think, I've got an older brother. He's happily married to his wife, got 2 beautiful children. But when I first came out, it was this thing of that, oh my God, like if it was your brother, we'd have understood it more, because he lived in London at the time. He was like the outgoing, the camper one of the two of us, if I can say that. So I think it was a big shock. I'd played sport all my life. I was a competitive swimmer younger, then a rugby player at quite a decent level, at county level, when I was a kid. So I think it was a bit of a shock to the system, and as well, like the reason that I had to come out to my sort of aunts and uncles extremely quickly after coming out for the first time, because my auntie had booked us a holiday to Florida, and originally my wife was supposed to be coming, but obviously that wasn't going to be the case anymore. In the time between separating this holiday being booked and everything, I'd met Sean, who's my husband, and it was like, my auntie had always said, oh, if you want to bring a friend, you can still bring a friend. Yeah. And I said to my mum, oh, well, because Sean had the time off because he'd been made redundant from a job and he was about to start a new one. So he had the time off and he had the money to pay for the flight. And he was going to go on holiday anyway. So I said, well, you might as well come to Florida with me, go to Disney World and everything. And I said this to my mum. I said, well, my auntie's already said that I can bring a friend. And my mum was like, yeah, but it's more than just a friend. You can't say a friend. They'll know, like, it'll be a bit weird. I was like, so she was like, you have to ring them all and tell them that you're gay. It was a little bit more diplomatic than that, but it was that. And literally, I spent like half an hour ringing like 3 aunts and uncles and my cousins and saying, oh yeah, by the way, I'm going to be bringing Sean. He's my I'm gay and he's my partner. And it was all like a bit of a whirlwind for them, so it was a bit hard for them to adjust to it straight away. But they were really good. We went on the holiday to Florida and had a great time with all my family. So, but yeah, bit of a crazy time. And just something on Simon said about the cliche of that, oh, you don't just come out the once. That is so true. Like every day of my life, there is an instance where I have to come out to someone. It just it is what it is. You kind of get used to it, and it is a bit boring. You know, I work in a call centre. I'm a manager of a team, and it's quite a high turnover of staff. And you meet new teams. It's a big call centre. There's lots of people, and it's kind of, as new people come in, it's kind of like, oh, I didn't know you were gay. Even though, like, I haven't got any nail polish on today, but normally I'll have nail polish on, and I'll have my hair a different colour, and you know, I like to think I'm quite flamboyant, but obviously not enough for people to pick up on that I might be gay. Simon's laughing because he thinks I'm like as camp as Christmas. But that's what I'm like around the rugby guys. Like I'm a different person. It's a different world, professional world, a rugby world. And even my home life around family, I have to put on a persona. So yeah, coming out is just something you get used to. But it's not easy. Sometimes you're like, some situations you're in, actually, it's easier just to not. It's actually easier to let people assume that you're straight. And if they ask you about your wife and you feel that you might be dangerous, you go, oh yeah, they're fine. Like you won't correct them. And sometimes that because you just feel intimidated, that you think if I say, oh no, actually I have a husband, that they might change how they interact with you. I'm quite lucky. I'm 6'2" and weigh 20 odd stone. So not many people are going to start with me, but you'd be amazed at how many people, when they walk past you in the street, that will go gay or have something to say when they're walking away from you.
Wow.
It really disappoints me that the modern world that we live in, that people still treat you both like that. Nick, the word that you sort of used there was persona. Do you both feel like you're putting on a persona, almost trying to pretend that you're something and not to be judged?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. In situations. Yeah.
That is really disappointing that you can't walk down the street and not have somebody say something to you. And it's almost that where typical like stereotype of a blonde female walking down the road past the building site where she gets wolf whistled at. That's gone from the world now. We can't behave like that. And
it has, but it still happens.
It does.
Like that still happens. Like I wish it happened to me. I wish someone would wolf whistle me. No, joking aside, like you know, like it's not acceptable to happen, but you know, it happens. Like, and this is the thing. Like I find for me that I come across a lot of people when I put comments on Facebook, and a lot of my friends that are not in the LGBT world, they'll go, "Well, that still happens today," and I'm like, every goddamn day. Like we have to deal with it, but. You know, like I see it because I follow LGBT things on Facebook, on social media, on other things, and so me and Simon will see what goes on. But unless you're in those news feeds, you're blinded to it. And so then when you do get introduced to something like that, it is a shock because genuinely people do feel like that shouldn't happen in the 21st century. You know, it's 2020 now. People do feel that those things shouldn't happen, but the hard truth is that it does, and there's still a long, long way to go. Yes, it's not as bad as it was 10, 20 years ago, but it's still nowhere near where people think it is. And there's still a lot to do.
Yeah. Simon, have you got anything?
I absolutely agree with that one, you know, and it's still, and I guess because a lot of people see it in major cities and potentially that they kind of get this feeling. But outside of major cities, you can't walk around holding your partner's hand in a same-sex couple without something being said somewhere, or feeling comfortable enough to do it. I won't do it with my partner. I won't hold his hand in public, even though he wants me to, because I'm always looking out for the next person that I might need to step up to, because they come and say something, and I'm not the person to back down from that. I won't back down from it.
So let's not sugarcoat it. It's homophobia, isn't it? That you're waiting for homophobic comments.
Yeah, and I won't back down from that sort of thing. If you say something to me, then you need to say it to my face, and you need to be able to back it up as well, because and this sounds really difficult. I'm not that much of a confrontational person until you get me on, get me riled and get me angry, and then I'll stand my ground on stuff. And one thing that I do live by, my mum did teach me, is you don't ever start a fight, but you damn well make sure you finish it. And I've always lived by that thing. So I will tell people, if you're going to start something, you better lay me out.
But there's nothing that either of you have said that actually means you shouldn't stand up for what you believe, because what you're saying is normal life. That's the world we live in nowadays.
My partner gets it quite a lot. My partner, we're chalk and cheese. Me and my partner, we couldn't be more different from each other. He wears makeup, and his hairstyle and the clothes that he wears and stuff, that you will instantaneously tell that he's gay. But that creates its whole set of own problems in that, he'll feel self-conscious. He wears makeup because it makes him feel good, and he likes to look good. Exactly the same way as ladies do. But he will get people stare at him, and he'll feel self-conscious, and standing in a queue for in a supermarket or something like that, because people will look and people will, they'll stare and they'll say stuff, and then doubly he's then waiting for me to say something back if I hear it.
So you touched on then.
It's really hard, because sometimes saying something back actually can make it worse. It can exacerbate it, whereas sometimes it's like it's knowing when to kind of roll your eyes and walk away, and it's kind of the fight or flight, and sometimes you have to weigh up what your options are. And like, I know Michael, Simon's partner, and he's a lovely guy, and he, like, it's a shame, because it's like that he gets what he gets, because if he was allowed to flourish and show the confident side that we get to see even when we're out as a club, he's just an amazing guy. He's got a lot of love for the world, and I think there's lots of people like that, and it's just a shame to see that they're not allowed to be who they are. And to some aspect, like, even like Simon thinks I'm probably quite camp, because when he sees me, it's with the rugby team. I'm all over the place. I'm, laughing, joking, whatever. But as soon as I walk away from the club, it's kind of, you have to put your mask back on to make sure that you're not a target.
Which is just so sad, isn't it? And you think about the age that we're in, the era that we're in at the moment, and it's just everybody in my book should be accepted, no matter who you are, what you are. And obviously we know all the stuff that's going on in the US at the moment, and rolling over here in the UK. Everybody is allowed to have their rights, their freedom of speech. They can be who they want to be. You would have thought in this day and age that people would accept things a bit more, but it seems like there's a few feathers being ruffled, definitely. And like, I've always been sort of taught from an early age to be who you want to be. Whoever you want to be who you want to be. It's having confidence as well. And when that confidence gets knocked, it does knock you back. And you guys, I can totally understand, you want to be walking out your door thinking, I'm going to have a good day. This is all about me today, and not have to deal with, certain number of people that can't deal with it. I mean, that's their issue. It shouldn't have to be yours.
I always go back to something I saw on online, and it was like an article about kissing in public, and it was you know, like for me and Simon, if we want to kiss our partners out in the street, it's not just a innocent peck on the cheek. We have to look around us to see who else is around. We have to be aware of what environment we're in, and then it becomes something more. You know, because some people will, if they see it, will think that you're making a stand or a political statement, but actually all you want to do is show that you love your husband or your partner.
Affection, isn't it? Like any normal person would. Yeah.
But, you know, you've got some people that go, yeah, you know, do it, and then you've got other people that go, oh, that's disgusting. And it's like, actually, all I want is what not a heterosexual couple would have is that you just carry on walking. It's not a. I'm not doing it as an activist. I'm not doing it to wind anyone up. You know, it's just I want to be able to show my husband that I love him in public.
Yeah.
So we'll just talk a little bit about the mental health side of things now. So I'm not assuming that you've both had mental health issues, but unfortunately, because of the nature of the battles that you've got ongoing, can you tell us a little bit about your experiences with mental health, both in the past and at present, if you have any sort of experiences that you can explain with us?
I come from a family where you pretty much just suppress emotion, and you pretty much just get on with things and deal with stuff, and you know you don't show any of that sort of side of the stuff. So I have to admit that I get my struggle really has been suppressed for a number of years, and it hasn't been until recently, until I got together with Michael, and he does suffer with depression and anxiety, and it's not really until I've lived with that and experienced it on a day-to-day basis that I became aware of my own mental health as well. You know, we've done a few things at the rugby club with an organisation about mental health as well. And it wasn't until I sort of really started looking into it that I came to realise that it's something that everybody has, and it is like your physical health. And that realisation was quite a moment for me, to be honest, where it's kind of like, actually, you know, you kind of need to look after yourself a bit more. So I've never been a big one for emotions. I've never been a big a
little bit about persona and sort of overcoming different mental health issues. I'm assuming that you both have sort of experienced mental health issues based on the daily battles that you've both experienced. Can you sort of tell us a little bit about what you've been through and some experiences?
So I come from a family that's very much a typical sort of British stiff upper lip, don't show your emotions, don't do anything like that. And it was only really since I've been in a relationship with my partner for the last 3 years, he suffers from depression and anxiety, that I've kind of started to explore mental health, and actually a realization that everybody has mental health, and it's like your physical health. You know, some days you have good mental health, and some days you have bad mental health. For me, the last few years have been a struggle, and it came off the back of losing my mum very suddenly. I think it's about it'll be 3 years this summer. And then in fact I then went through a phase where I attended 3 funerals in 6 weeks for various different things, and I just think that I've seen a change in how I realize my mental health, and I suppose I'm quite lucky that I kind of know how to dig myself out of stuff. The flip side of that is that, you know, I can see Michael when he's on a downward day, but there's not a lot you can do to bring somebody back up, and you just kind of have to roll ride it out. So that's kind of my experience really with mental health, and on a day-to-day basis, I am one of these people that I just get up and I do, and I come back. I know when I'm really bad, because I will just fling myself into 50 million things. I won't stop, because if I don't stop, I don't need to think about anything.
Is that your coping strategy then, to try and keep yourself busy?
It was for a long time. What it really was for a long time, a coping strategy that I would just fling myself into many different things. I have and I still do suffer from ADHD, so I don't sleep a lot. I kind of pick 4 or 5 hours a night at most. So I kind of have a long part of the day where I'm awake and I could think. So yeah, I just, now I just get up and I do things. My coping strategy now is a hell of a lot better, because it'll involve, generally involves sport. It'll either involve rugby or to the gym. And in lockdown, I've had to obviously to do different things. And the rest of the pack are going to hate me, but I've been running 5K for 2 or 3 times a week. So I might get chucked out of the prop of the prop life.
Like me.
But I've had to do something, and I'm really lucky. I've got a country park on my doorstep that you never knew about. It's literally a 5-minute walk, and I can run 5K around it, and it's a beautiful setting. And at 5:30 in the morning, because I'm a shy runner, there's nobody else around, and it's brilliant.
That's amazing. And I'm hearing a lot of stories about, obviously, we can't play rugby at the moment. So what's the alternative? Is to do running, walking, some form of exercise, because guess what? It clears the head. It gives the happy hormones, the endorphins. You forget about what's going on in the world, more so with COVID and just the nastiness that it's creating at the moment. So it's a great distraction, and it's tough. We've all entered into an agreement that we didn't want to enter into in the last 3 months. And it's great to hear that you're doing something positive, keeping you fit, which is always a good thing. And we're all allowed a few beers. What about you, Nick? And are you sort of finding any sort of strategies for new sports or running or anything like that?
Well, I'm going to have to. I've secretly been running. I've been running 5Ks as well, Simon. I kind of kept it quiet because I was like, I started. Well, I have stopped the last couple of weeks because I've got an allotment now. So we picked up an allotment that was overrun and needed a lot of work doing on it about 2-3 weeks ago. So I've been up there every day digging. Well, after work, because I'm a key worker, I still have to work from home in the morning. So then after work, I've been going up to the allotment. So my arms are a lot stronger than they were. So I'm hoping that digging at the allotment is going to help for the scrums. But a few weeks before that, so over about 3 or 4 weeks, I built myself up to running 5Ks. And then I was comfortably running 5K. So yeah, I've joined that secret running club too, Simon. But I was going to keep it secret because I'm a prop. We don't do exercise.
Well, you're doing. You've told the nation now.
Well, yeah, that's it. I'm out. Yeah,
so, PB.
Yeah. Oh, I'm a slow jogger, but I jog it all. So yeah,
that's great.
So Nick, what about your experiences with mental health? What sort of things have you overcome over the years and continue on a day-to-day?
Yeah, so mental health for me is a big part of my life, actually. I suffer with my mental health, have done for ever, really. I have good days, I have bad days. I take medication to help balance me out, and I'm quite happy doing that. There's a lot of people that go, I don't want to be on medication, but you know what? It balances the chemicals in my brain. It helps me feel normal. Some people say it dulls you down, but actually, only if you're a dull person, it dulls you down. No,
I'm on medication as well, so there's nothing to be worried about.
So yeah, it runs in my family. My nana had mental health issues. One of my aunties has had issues with their mental health. So I've always been aware of it in the family, and I can say that I think when I look back to to my life when I was married before to a woman, like I had depression, and I think a lot of it was down to my sexuality, because once I realised and came to that, oh my God, what have I done? I'm gay, and I've lived this double life, and and I didn't not love my wife. I just didn't love how a husband should love a wife. But I didn't know that at the time. I didn't understand that because I didn't know anything different. It was the most love I knew.
Yeah.
But yeah, so at that time I was going through a lot of turmoil because I was living a double life. And the fear of being caught, or and when I say the fear of being caught, I don't mean the fear of being caught doing something. I meant the fear of someone clocking on that I was gay when I'm married to a woman, and I just mean that by something I said or something I did or something I acted. And if someone, like my fear was that someone go, oh, you're gay, and I'd be like, how do they know?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like, whoa. So that was a lot of my issues around mental health to start with. I also have dyslexia, which plays a lot on me. So I struggle with words sometimes. Like most people don't know, but it plays on my mind. I've had difficulties at work with it. I've had difficulties in my personal life with it because I don't always get things. My brain is wired differently. And so, I've had a lot of mental issues around that. And then more recently, just, life, COVID, everything that goes on, like I'm constantly in a fight with myself. Like even this morning, I had a bit of a drop. My drops can happen in a day and I can turn it around or whatever. But this morning, I'd started work at 8. Luckily, I'm working from home, but my husband isn't. But he wasn't due to go in for a couple of hours. And I just went up to him and I gave him a hug, and I sort of had tears in my eyes. Oh, what's up? And it was like, nothing particular. I'm just having a bad morning.
Yeah.
So, like mental health for me, it's a part of my everyday. And I'm quite open about it as well. But yeah, a lot of people don't know that I have mental health problems because they go, but you're always happy, or you're always this, or you're always that. And it's like, I acted straight for 30 years of my life. I think I can act happy for half an hour when I'm speaking to you. So, and I think if you do struggle with mental health, you do learn how to hide it. And I'm sure, Nick, you can probably agree that if there's certain people that you won't show that you're having a weak day in front of.
Yeah.
And you'll put on an act, but then as soon as they're gone, it's kind of, you just want to get in your pajamas, get back into bed, have a night's sleep, and hopefully wake up feeling better.
Well,
so yeah, mental health.
At times you almost want to wake up a different person as well, and
definitely.
and that's just everyone's having their own battles. And something Simon said, I think it's so important that our listeners realise that when we talk about mental health, there are good mental health. Everybody has a mental health, and it's all about identifying. And if you do have a bad time, it's like Nick explained there. It's about identifying what triggers you to turn it around and make yourself feeling better. Otherwise, you end up in that downward spiral, like Simon suggested that his partner experiences, and it's where you find yourself in that downward spiral and you can't get out. So, I mean, everybody will have their own different coping strategies. The two gentlemen here have mentioned a few of theirs. Obviously, fitness is something that Hez was talking about that we're going to cover later on in some more shows because it is such an important part. And obviously, the four of us are big into our rugby. But there's all forms of different sports that can help you, and even just training on your own. You don't necessarily have to set your alarm for 5:30 as Simon does. No thanks.
No.
Yeah, it's just morning person.
Yeah.
I'm also not particularly an evening person.
Yeah.
Early bird.
I'm like permanently exhausted pigeon.
Just sort of talking a little bit more around the stigmas, and I just want to get back to things you were saying before about the way that people behave, because it is their behaviour, and it is disgusting that we're in 2020 and we've got all the things that are going on, as Hez mentioned earlier on, over in the States, and the experiences that you face literally when you walk out your house. You don't know what is going to happen. You walk down the street and you don't know who's going to say something to you. How do you think, sort of moving forward, particularly with the LGBT community, how that's going to change? And do you ever think in your lifetime, do you think that will change?
I mean, when I look back to when I was, in my early teens, and you look to where we are now, changed, and a lot has progressed. That things are things are talked about in the open now, whereas it wasn't before. And I almost think that sometimes you see parents talking about sex education and that LGBTQ stuff's on there, and do you know what? If you're talking about it, then at least a change has happened. That there is a lot more to go and a long way to go, but the more and more it's talked about in an open environment, then the better it will be. And if we can get to a stage where people don't have to feel that they need to be in the closet for 30 years, like like Nick, or even myself for the best part of 20 odd years, and you can just be yourself at 14, 15, because I very much think your own mind. Then you know where you're going at that point, and in a couple of years' time you can leave school and do whatever, pretty much how you want. So if we can get to that situation where it's just accepted and we don't actually need to talk about it as a specialized subject, that will it happen in my lifetime? I'd hope so, but I don't know, to be honest.
Like for me, and I think one of the things that Simon probably hasn't, I don't know if he's thought about it or not, but Section 28, like when we would have been at school, Section 28 was enforced. So no, we weren't a part of the fight of turning it down necessarily, but we were massively affected by Section 28, which is the fact that teachers couldn't even acknowledge homosexuality in schools. They couldn't talk about it if there was homosexual. When you research it, you find that a lot of teachers back during the time when Section 28 was live, they necessarily didn't agree with it, and they wanted to help these younger children understand these feelings, but they were afraid to talk about it. They were afraid to talk about homosexuality, and that it was normal because they were told they weren't allowed to, and so growing up, and there's a reason why it took me until I turned 30 to come out. It's because I grew up not in an environment where people couldn't talk about homosexuality. Like when I grew up, the only gay celebrities that I knew of was Graham Norton and Alan Carr. Now we've got Zachary Quinto, you've got gay rugby players, you've got Gareth Thomas, you've got all these role models now that are not your stereotypical gay person. And I think as well, when you think about gay characters in films, if you look back to the 80s, 90s, if there was a gay character, they would have been effeminate, they would have been camp, they would have been into fashion, they wouldn't have been into sport. So whereas now you've actually got films that are based on gay people that are in the mainstream, and they are about people that are not that stereotype. So we've come a long way. There's just a hell of a long way to go. And with everything that's going on, like the fight for equal rights for LGBT people has not been going on as long as it has for people of colour. And we're still a long way from where we need to be for people of colour in one of the most, what we perceive as one of the most progressive countries in the world. And even in the UK, there's still inequalities there. And, I just think there are people of colour that also fall into the LGBT community. Yeah. And where's their voice? There's issues within the LGBT community around race. We're not immune to it, and so people like me and Simon within the LGBT community have to speak out in that community about those things to support our friends that are people of colour. And, it's getting that balance, because it's kind of, I think there's this big thing that everyone goes, oh, well, you're gay, so you're not transphobic, you're not this, you're not that. But actually within the community, we have our own little fights that we have to make, because there are gay people out there that don't necessarily believe that there's non-binary, and so there's a battle with inside the community as well as outside it. It's not, and that's why we still need pride. That's why, and that's why this month it's so hard not having it. I'm scheduled to be going to quite a lot of the prize this season. And for me, it's kind of, I don't just go for the fun of it. Like some of it, it's like, the music, this, that, the other. But it's getting to actually stand there. Like for me and my husband, Sean, like it's probably the only time that we ever walk through Leicester City Centre holding hands is during that Pride March, because it is still a Pride March. You know, a lot of places it's more of a parade now, but in Leicester it's still kind of a march, and we actually will hold hands while we're walking through the city centre, because it's kind of, I'm going to hold my head high. This is who we are, and you need to get used to it. And so it's a shame that we haven't got those things, because it means we're going to lose that visibility.
It's also a shame that you can't do that for the rest of the year, and
every single day.
It's like you both said earlier on, you can't have that intimacy as a couple, and it's just, I just genuinely hope as a society we change, and it just, we've got to come to accept. It's not accept. That's not the wrong word, but we've got to come to just. It's the normal. It's the norm. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing. You're just being normal people, and you just want to live your lives. You don't want to. Does that make sense?
Yeah. There is a part of it that we need to remember, that, like, so we've had a negative experience, so then you don't do it.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean, so it could be that I could do it again tomorrow, and actually I won't have a negative experience. And there will have been times when we've done it, but it won't have been until we had that negative experience that we stopped doing it. But then it's because of that one negative experience that then stops us doing it again. So we might not necessarily notice that it's changed because we're too afraid to attempt it. So there's also an element of it, whereas, you know, we have to maybe try it again. But as soon as you get that negative, like, and I know that there'll be that point where you'll get a look, or you'll get, and you're just like, can't bother. I'm not here to judge. Like, I'll just walk down the street, get from A to B as quick as possible, so I can get on with the rest of the day.
Yeah.
So that sort of comes, that alludes nicely actually into my next question. Obviously you've spoken a lot about things repeating itself and whatever else. There'll be people that are listening to this, and that have friends that are listening to this, or friends of friends or whatever, that will be sitting there and very similar situations to both of you. I know both of you are from completely different backgrounds and completely different stories. But what advice have you got for people out there that are sort of fighting their own battles in their own minds, that they're scared to come out? What sort of advice have you got for them?
You have to do it when you're ready. You have to, you know, just come to that realization in yourself first, and be comfortable in yourself. I wouldn't suggest that you try and push it out before you're ready to do it. You know, that's just really from my own experience. But you know, also just think about the people that are around you, because the people that surround you generally will be people that are your friends and that you've known for a while, and you've picked there, and they're there for a reason. And they're probably more accepting than what you think in your head. And your head will be, oh my God, how am I ever going to tell these people? And actually, certainly your best friends will probably just turn around and go, I don't really care.
Yeah.
It's like the least interesting thing about you. So, you know, it's not as bad as you think. It will be in your head, it will be bad, but, you know, I would advocate that you try and talk to somebody, but only when you're ready, and don't let people push you, and don't let people sort of make you do anything that you don't want to do when you're not ready, because I think that's potentially as harmful as bottling up for years and years and years, and then coming out at a later date. You know, and then don't be afraid that you don't hit the stereotypical person that's out there. That's the other thing. I don't think either Nick or I do to a large extent. You know, you don't have to be anything that anybody thinks that you might need to be just because you say, oh, you know, I'm gay or whatever. You know, just be yourself and be the best version of yourself that you can possibly be. And that's how I try, you know, and live my life now, in that, you know, I know that I'm not brilliant at a million things, but if I'm going to attempt something, I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. And that's all that anybody can ever ask of you.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, like, my advice is kind of on the same vein. It's, you know, definitely do, you know, like, I think for me, like coming out late, when I first came out, there was this little bit of thing, oh, I should have come out sooner, like, why was I hiding, you know? And like, you look at all the sort of people that have come before you that like the activists, you know, that have made a change to the community and how it's viewed. But you can, like, there's no right time. There isn't a right time. It's just, you do it or you don't. But again, you have to, you know, you have to be ready to do it. It's not like, because once you've done it, that's it. You've ripped the plaster off. It becomes easier, but once you've done it, and again, like, it really shocked me because actually everyone is supportive, and if they're not supportive, then that you don't need them in your life. Like, one of the things that I'm lucky, my family are really supportive, but there's also elements of it where I've made a new family for myself with friends that are there supportive for me. And I would actually say that I'm possibly closer to them than I am actual some of my biological family. You know, my family, like I said, my dad, absolutely amazing. My brother, so supportive, like they're there for everything. So, like I said, from that point of view, I'm really lucky, because there are people that don't have that support, that don't have that understanding. And, you know, there are people that get kicked out of their houses still when they come out. So, you know, but if that happens, reach out to the community. We will reach, you know, look at the clubs around you, you know, not just rugby clubs, football teams. There's other types of things, you know. In Northampton, they've got something called Q Space. In Leicester, we've got the LGBT Centre. There'll be something in your town that you can reach out to, and they will help you, because you'll build that bond. And, you know, no one wants to see, you know, someone homeless because of being who they are.
Yeah.
You know, it's quite scary when you look at statistics, and one of the statistics that scares me is, like, there's a high volume, like there's more LGBT people that are part of that, like the homeless community. Such a large percentage of them are LGBT youth, and for me, it's like, that's scary to think that they felt that they had to leave home,
do
nothing, so they could be who they are. And so, you know, long way to go, and a lot of support needs to be done. But, you know, don't live in the closet. Don't be afraid to be who you are. And, you know, make little changes to start with. It doesn't have to be drastic, you know. And as well, when you're coming out, you don't have to come out to the world all at once. Come out to someone that you're close to, that you trust. You know, pick someone. And it doesn't even, and if you know, or come out to someone that's a stranger first, if that makes you feel better, that knows nothing about you. But come out to someone, and then you'll start to feel more comfortable in yourself, because actually it's the hiding that has the effect on your mental health. It's not like I don't have mental health problems because I'm gay. I have mental health problems because I felt like I had to hide that I'm gay. So, and I think for me, like I've been out for 7 years, and it's kind of like I'm going through a process, and I'm still going through that process. There are still things that I learn about myself, because I become more comfortable in myself. So it's a process, and, you know, but there are people out there that will support you, and it'll be the people that you least expect it that'll probably be there for you the most.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you so much for that. Really, really interesting hearing both your thoughts. And obviously, as I said at the beginning, this is our first launch, and I think it's just so appropriate that, with it being Pride Month, just both of your experiences, hopefully people, even if it benefits one person and helps them get through their battles that they're overcoming, or whether they're experiencing difficulties walking down the street when they're getting sort of homophobic slur at them, just by hearing you two sort of talking about your experiences, hopefully it will help them. And anybody that feels like they want to get in touch with the Pinnacle Mindset, you can get in touch with us. We've got various social media platforms, we've got email address, and we can support you, and we can help you find community groups wherever you live if you do want to get in touch with us. So please don't think you are alone. Please get in touch. Guys, I know both of you have been talking about rugby. I'm going to give you a little bit of a plug now, but you both play for the Northampton Outlaws, is that correct? I can see a couple of shirts hanging back.
Woo! Love it.
Good stuff.
My shirt.
So, yeah, guys, this is not just about rugby. This is about life. But the two gentlemen that we've got as guests, they use rugby as one of their sort of mediums to overcome their issues. But also, it's a damn good opportunity just to get together and have a good knees up at the end of it. Unfortunately, I'd be scared if I was sort of the wingers and stuff like that. They'll be having to get fit. They'll all have washboard abs and stuff like that, and lifting weights. They won't do it.
don't.
They never run anyway.
Our backs are not fit.
Good stuff. If anybody's in the Northampton area, pop down and watch them and give them support. And yeah, not just for the rugby, but just for everything they're trying to achieve. And the guys, check out their website as well. They're on Google, so search them on Google. I did it before, and it's really, really good stuff on there. So yeah. Thank you so much, guys, for coming on. We really appreciate everything you've done this evening, and keep doing what you're doing, I think.
Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Everyone, thank you so much for listening to this podcast, talk show. We will be here around for more. If you feel like you want to get in touch with us, please find us on social media platforms. Please ask us some questions, and we can talk about anything mental health. So if you've got any suggestions, please get in touch. Until the next time, from Hez and from me, it is goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.